Welcome back to Squawk Box. Joining us right now is the ranking member of the Banking Committee, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. We have so many things to talk about, headlines. We will go through the names. We've just been ticking them off about what's happening in the news. But I want to start with AI for just a moment with you, because you, and also, by the way, recently Bernie Sanders, have been proposing different ways to tax the AI universe. And we just had this EO on AI, or executive order on AI. I know it's a different issue, but Sam Altman apparently is in town right now and talking to different legislators and the like. There's a question mark about whether we should be taxing AI, how we should tax AI, if we should tax AI, and what it could do to slow down the development of all of this. Where do you sort of sit on this issue right now? Or is this an issue you think we need to be thinking about much just farther down the line?
Oh, listen, we need to be thinking right now. In fact, we should have been thinking about this yesterday and taking action. Look, we don't know what's going to happen with AI, but we do know that the people who are most deeply engaged are talking about half the workforce losing their jobs. We're talking about enormous disruption in ways that we can't anticipate. Now is the moment to get ahead of that, to get started on our response. And part of it, I mean, think about it. If you were talking about a lot of people could lose their jobs, we're going to see a lot of disruption, what would you do? Well, you might start by saying, let's make sure that those who are getting the profits from this are also helping cushion the disruption. So I've proposed, for example, an excise tax on the data centers themselves, the place where all of this is being produced, so that in effect they internalize the cost of what they're doing. And that's money we can then spend on health care, it's money we can spend on child care, it's money we can spend on education, so that people can train for other jobs.
But should we be doing that now? Because it's, look, there's still a question mark. I think it's fair to say there's a question mark about what it is doing to labor in this moment. It may have a demonstrable impact, and I worry about that impact down the line.
So look, I'm going to do it both ways. We should be doing it now. We should be doing it now for two reasons. The first reason we should be doing it now is we need to get ahead of what's coming. You don't wait until you've laid off a bunch of people, till they've lost their health care, till they have no place to go, to say, oh, we're Congress, we should now think about policies here. But the second reason we should be moving right now is these data centers have real impact. We know that. And if they're going to have an impact, then the answer is we need a structure in place where the cost that they impose, we have a way to actually
Bernie
tax
Sanders
that and
is
move
literally
it back
talking about creating a sovereign wealth fund where there'd be a dividend and we would own a stake in these companies. There's also a question of whether it slows it down, slows the innovation piece of it down. These are companies, by the way, not making money yet, and whether they're going to be able to compete properly if you believe we're in this sort of race against China.
Yeah, look, I'm very concerned about the race against China, but that opens another box we should be talking about, and that is the chips that we make here in the United States that were based on research that taxpayers in the United States paid for, that NVIDIA and others have been exporting to China. You know, we have restrictions, export controls on this really highly technical.
But NVIDIA would say that they are not exporting to China.
Yeah, that's what they would
them,
say.
Right?
Well, we certainly need a deeper investigation about how these chips
You're saying
ended
going
up
through
and
Singapore
where
or
they
going through
ended
other
up.
places.
But I'm saying, yes, I am concerned. But I'm concerned right now directly with the fact that the Chinese, in effect, buy our stuff, and American companies make a profit doing that, but it certainly undermines our long-term security, particularly because the chips we've been talking about are not just chips to help the AI industry in general in China. These are chips that are actually used for military purposes. And
you're talking about the most recent NVIDIA chips?
I'm talking about the most recent that are moving out, and that we're very concerned about what's happening. It's also a question about the technology on how to develop those chips, how to build those chips. We need to keep that in the United States.
Okay, let me pivot the conversation to a couple of other big headlines.
Yeah.
Bill Pulte, running national intelligence.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? And do you believe that he could be confirmed if, in fact, it wasn't just an acting role?
I think it's a terrible terrible decision. And no, I don't think he could get confirmed. I mean, that's just my own view on it. I sure wouldn't vote for him. But I think there are a lot of people in the United States Senate who would say someone who has demonstrated that he is willing to use personal information to weaponize it against the perceived enemies of the President of the United States. Someone like that should be in charge of the deepest secrets in the United States? I don't think so, and I don't think anybody's going to go for that.
Okay, Todd Blanche.
No.
No?
I mean, what about Todd Blanche?
Well, the podcast this morning by the president says that he is the next AG.
Oh, I hadn't heard this one yet.
Oh, okay. So
I
yes,
hadn't heard it.
so he apparently is going to be nominated to be the next Attorney General.
Look,
and that would require confirmation.
That's right. The guy who just cut the deal to say that the President of the United States will never have to answer for however he or anyone in his family may have cheated on taxes. The President of the United States gets the extra special deal that no other human being who walks the face of the earth gets. I don't think so. I think that's a pretty bad idea. Oh, and he's also the guy who helped negotiate the slush fund, because that was a real winner. The whole idea that the President of the United States should have $1.7 billion to hand out to his perceived supporters, I don't think so.
I wasn't done with AI.
Yeah, that's what I want to go back to.
You want to go back to AI?
Go back to
I only
him?
want to go back to AI in this context, Senator. I'm torn because I agree that most disruptions in the past, I don't want to be a Luddite, and it's always led to, we don't have buggy whips. It's always been great what has happened. But I think we're sitting here listening, and we're just supposed to accept that blindly when the whole point of AI really is to do things that don't require a human to do it. And I think it's staring us in the face that this is going to be not the same as previous disruptions. And I think there could be really devastating to truckers, too. I mean, you just pick any industry, and you can find a way to do that. And I want to know how to do it without necessarily taxing it, which means less of it.
Okay, I want to let it act however it wants to act, but at the same time, I want to worry about it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what
I'm
about Bernie
saying that I
Sanders
want
with
it
the
to happen, but I don't see any other way than we're all going to be sitting around on UBI, on Universal Basic Income,
Look,
playing video games.
So part of the answer is we can't just let a handful of billionaires make all the decisions here. I think that has to be your starting point. Is I get it. They have built something. They think it's really exciting. They've gotten out there. They're building these data centers now as a way to make this operational. But the central question is going to be, are we here in Congress going to exercise any control over this?
So
Are we gonna
what
put
do you
any
think of the
constraints
executive
in
order
place?
that the president? What do you think of the executive order that the president just put out?
Just
About
not-
30 days before you put it out, and it's voluntary.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That may be the same template as the executive order that the banks will voluntarily reduce interest rates on credit cards down to 10%. Does anyone remember what the banks did in response?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly right. These guys are not voluntarily going to say, oh, we will cut our profits. We will make sure that we are doing anything other than maximizing the number of dollars that go into our own pockets. This is where power lies, but only if we pick it up and use it. And the way we can start that is we can start with the data centers, not with the when does your accounting show that you made a profit. Start with the data centers. You're out there building something, you're creating externalities.
Because those companies are making a profit?
Well, it's not the question of profit, it's a question of what they're handing out. It's like a tax on tobacco. We don't ask the question, did you make a profit on the cigarettes? We ask the question, if you're selling them, there's a tax on it. That's what an excise tax is.
What kind of a tax would you put? Like how much?
I put an excise tax.
How big?
So you measure it by their outputs.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you've got at least some constraint at the place, and I'm trying to pick the place, Joe, that is the least intrusive on the creativity, the place where they're actually producing the thing that pushes it out into businesses.
But let me ask you a question. Is there more value in changing the tax code to, since you could, I mean, this goes to the sort of labor versus capital.
Yeah.
more around capital gains and less around labor. Interestingly, we spoke with Jeff Bezos a couple weeks ago, and he made the argument that folks, for example, who are getting paid under $100,000 in the United States effectively shouldn't be paying federal taxes at all.
Yeah. What do you say about a wealth tax? I remember, I think I saw that interview.
I think you saw that interview. Because I think I saw a social post that you might have been involved in on the other end of it.
Yeah, because his view is he's on his way to being a trillionaire, and please nobody get in his way.
I think his argument was that he's open to a debate. I actually think he would have a debate with you and a conversation about whether there should be higher taxes on the other end. I think his bigger argument was that that is not going to fill the larger hole that would have.
Right, and that's that was my question. The 2 cents. We tax the hell out of these billionaires. Let's say we do. It's a finite number. Does there ever come a point with $40 trillion in debt where you're not just thinking about taxing more to spend more on whatever you want to do to try to fix the world? Does it ever get to the point where right now we're at 24% of what we spend, and we're still raising 18%, but can we get it back down?
Can I just invert that question and ask it of our Republican friends here? And that is there ever a point where you will stop cutting taxes for billionaires? Because that is exactly why we have this dislocation.
But I gave you that.
Now.
I gave you that we're going to tax them. But that's still not going to be enough. Who else?
So, but let's start with a wealth tax. Actually, is an astonishing amount of money from a handful of people because they have so much. You put a 2-cent wealth tax on all of the value that you've got above $50 million, and what have you got? You've got enough money to do universal child care. You've got enough money to fund all of our public schools. You've got enough money to fund our colleges and universities.
So just spend, if you do it, you want to spend it.
You don't even want to our student loan debt. You've got the money we need here in America to start investing in our people. And Jeff Bezos says, oh, we could double his taxes and it wouldn't be enough. Absolutely, as long as we're going to stick with income, because Jeff Bezos knows how to work the system. But the problem is, for hundreds of millions of Americans, they don't get to work the system. They don't get to say, oh, I'll just live off borrowing against my
He doesn't want to tax anyone below. He doesn't want to tax anyone below.
The buy, borrow, die sort of theory of the case. I just want to posit to you, and he said it directly, is something actually he doesn't do. He's been selling his stock regularly to finance, by the way, Blue Origin. You can decide whether that's a good investment, a bad investment. You can decide whatever, but he has to sell the stock and actually pay the taxes. That's how it actually works in practice. There are other people. I'm not just telling you that there's not other people who do this, but I think that he's probably not the right example for that particular case.
So I will make 2 responses to this. The first one is, yes, he says for Blue Origin, and notice gets taxpayer support for doing that, because when he sells, that's different from somebody who goes out and teaches school and draws a paycheck. He gets to pay at a lower tax rate than someone else.
And that's why I was raising the question about whether we should have higher capital gains taxes.
Fair enough. But the other part of this is, did he sell stock in order to buy his $300 million yacht? I don't know. I don't know the answer here. But I do know that the billionaires, we've seen it, the billionaires are not paying based on their wealth. They have figured out lots of schemes how to take advantage of our tax code so that they are. Jeff Bezos pays taxes at the same rate as a Boston public school teacher. And that makes no sense at all. We need a tax system that truly accounts for the fact that there are people who have amassed huge wealth. And I'm not looking at trying to confiscate everything they've got. A 2-cent wealth tax, 2 cents. Every year on what they've got.
But fair to say that your version or thought around a wealth tax is because you think there are too many loopholes in the other parts of the system. Well, you and I have had debates about this before. And I have a view that we should be taxing realized gains as opposed to unrealized gains for lots of reasons that are mostly philosophical. But you would have to actually change parts of the laws around how capital gains works,
the tax code is a mess.
How entitlements work. I mean, not entitlements, but tax of death, and all. There's a whole bunch of things you'd have to do, to prevent all of the loopholes. I think the reason you like the wealth tax is because it sort of circumvents all of those other
You
things.
bet it does. Because there's a whole industry that has grown up that gets paid by the likes of Jeff Bezos to make sure that every loophole is there and carefully protected, and not only make sure that Congress protects all those loopholes and builds additional ones, but that over at the IRS, every interpretive letter works in favor of the billionaires, and that means against the problem we've got of a mounting debt.
I'm not in favor of a lot of the things that you're talking about, that you're targeting here. I agree with you on many of those counts, but one person's loophole may be another senator's version of trying to incentivize behavior. The reason that it's clearly, like the reason that you get a discount on it's incentivizing you to buy a home, because you get the tax benefits that come with that. There are all sorts of behaviors that we incentivize.
Senator, when you talk to people in the country, the same normal people you're always talking about, they see how much they're taxed now, and it might be, I don't know, 60% if you're at a certain level in New York, in New Jersey. That's what your total tax is.
If you're a W-2
Bill Maher
employee, that
the
is
other
the
day,
case.
and you see how the money is spent, and you see what's being uncovered now on how it's being spent, and the idea that this is still not enough, what the federal government is spending right now. You want to ramp it up, tax everybody up with billionaires, and maybe even below that, and not even reduce the deficit. You want to even use that to spend more on Medicaid fraud and
So let me ask
all
you, Joe,
these. It just
let's
goes through the cracks and doesn't work.
Let's turn
more?
it around.
You want more?
Let's turn it around
You
the
want
other
even
way.
more?
Let's turn it around the other
Okay.
way. If half of the wealth tax went to reducing the deficit, would you support it then?
I'd at least listen a little bit more.
You would listen a little more.
But it's still not enough, though, Senator.
How do you know it's not enough?
Because
Have you looked at the numbers
you can do the
on
math.
this?
You're
I have done the math
and what's
on
it
this.
come to? What's the total you could raise?
On the bill, well, it's now gone up.
Well, you want to go to 50 million now, 2% on down to 50 million.
I want above 50. Your first 50 million in wealth is free and clear. Your 50 millionth and first dollar, you have to pay a 2-cent tax on.
Right.
Is that such a big deal?
I mean,
Do you know how
philosophically, I think it's a pretty big deal.
You think it's a big deal?
I do, because you paid money to accrue that.
Did you pay money to buy your house?
Well, I understand you're going to do the property tax thing.
And you pay a property tax on that.
That's for
right?
services. Yeah, for services and for
You
the
pay,
school.
you pay a tax on services. You pay
So
these taxes all the time.
what is that number if you do 2% on 50 million and above?
So I'm trying to remember.
I'm going to ask Claude right now.
Yeah, but I will tell you
But you
this.
don't like Claude because you want to tax him, too.
You can look it up. But here's the thing that's the most important. I ran this during my presidential in 2019, and we did all the numbers.
Yep.
And here's the best part. We just reintroduced. I got somebody to tell me what the number is again. Here was the part that struck me, though. Between the time I ran for president in 2019 and now, the amount of revenue that a 2-cent wealth tax would produce doubled. I just want you to think about that. Okay, income didn't double for my public school teachers in Boston. Income didn't double for millions of Americans across this country, but for that handful at the top, what doubled was not income. You like to talk about realized income. That's voluntary. Jeff Bezos can decide to do that or not because he's figured out he could make more money or not make more money on his investments. But what has doubled has been that accumulation of wealth, and I should add, power, up at the top. A 2-cent wealth tax just says, come on, look what you've gotten in this country. How do you think you built that wealth? You built that wealth. Your hard work, 2 thumbs up. Your innovative ideas, 2 thumbs up. But you also built it using a workforce. All of us helped educate. You built it using roads and bridges. All of us helped build. You use it being protected by police and firefighters and army that all of us helped pay for. And all we're asking in return, 2 cents on that wealth so that we can help stabilize this country, so that we can invest in our people, so they have opportunities, and so that we can face something like an AI crisis with at least some cushioning for the American people.
Senator Warren, I want to thank you.